very hard.
Championship Jetboat Marathon has been held only twice before, on Canada's Smoky River and then on the notorious Rio Balsas in Mexico. In both championships, New Zealanders finished first and second. Now it's their turn to host the third and longest World Championship Jetboat Marathon, 1,000 kilometers on 9 rivers over 7 days. Up some rivers, down others, in both islands, from the Tasman Sea to the Pacific Ocean. A massed start in 4 classes on the Ruamahanga River marks the beginning of 1,000 kilometers of racing. An international field of past champions, current title holders, and willing hopefuls. Bob Bradley and his Las Vegas crew in Pioneer give head to one of the most powerful craft in the event. Reg Benton in Lion Export, an ex-world champ, eager for a good start on his home river. Jim Burnside in Columbus, a world-ranked driver, makes a few hasty adjustments to his engine. In Lockwood, another Mexico race veteran. Gordon Ford in Alberta Gold, an ex-New Zealander now leading this Canadian entry. And Don Johnson in Aorangi, local stud cattle farmer, runner-up in the 78 World Champs and one of the favourites for this year. The Jetboat, taking water in and pumping it out the back in a jet stream. With no protruding propeller, the Jetboat can navigate shallow water. The faster they go, the more they're able to plane across the surface. A boat made to go fast. A 454 cubic inch twin turbocharged engine, developing 1,000 brake horsepower. So much power held together by a delicate combination of crew and craft. The handling skills of the driver, the inventive genius of the mechanic, and the eagle eye of the navigator, reading the river ahead just as fast as the boat will travel through it. In what seems a remarkably short time, Max Mackenzie in ANZ finishes the first stage well ahead of the field. Others didn't fare so well. Bob Bradley in Pioneer stranded with engine failure, and Reg Benton completes makeshift repairs to finish half an hour behind the field. Max Mackenzie, winner on the Rio Balsas in '74, finishes stage 1, the Ruamahanga, 3 minutes under the previous record. Don Johnson, second home in Aorangi.
How'd you get on? Oh, good run, yeah.
And one of the youngsters, Mark Cromie in Commodore, handed to the leaders in 5th place, followed by his South Island neighbour, Norm Bagri, 6th in Valvoline.
Get on that, good. Oh, well, we only just made it to the start. A few problems. They had no oil pressure to start with. 1 minute before the start, we had no oil pressure, and we tried. And finally, oil pressure came up, fuel pressure came up to 8 pounds, and we're away.
Howard Smith in Guthrie's Tours, runner-up to the current world champ, suffers mechanical failure to put him 11 minutes behind the leaders.
Run, but I'm afraid we've got problems with the motor. We lost about 1,000 revs about 5 minutes after the start, and I think one of the turbos might have gone, so we've got to rush around now and try and find another turbo or just pull that one to pieces and see what's wrong with it. Hopefully we'll get it fixed before this afternoon, but we came up pretty slow, unfortunately.
I believe we broke a valve about 15 minutes after the start. So it made some rattling noises and lost a lot of power.
Does that put you out of contention overall?
Oh yeah, obviously.
You incur...
Well, we incur penalties, but this race is so competitive that with the 2 or 3 hours of penalties that we're going to have, there's no way we could win the race at this point.
There's no time for post-mortems. A 60-kilometre dash to stage 2 and the treacherous Manawatu Gorge. Catching a moment's rest before the start, Howard Smith relaxes with current world number 1, John Heslop.
You know, it seems like the river's come up overnight, and could be pretty wild. Certainly won't be able to see the rocks. Just have to go around them somehow. Hey, John. Hope so.
A lot of big water, big pressure waves, probably a lot of white water. It's hard to believe the river running dirty, but it'll be blowing around. There'll be quite a lot of spray.
I've never been through this rapid before. I've seen film of it. I'm a bit concerned about it.
Don Johnson guides Aorangi safely through the White Horse Rapids to hold second place. Blue Derry shows his experience in Super Value. And the youngster Cromie chasing hard in Commodore. Also within striking distance, current champ John Heslop in P&N. Chased by Norm Bagri, the Canterbury farmer. And as if driven by some urge to fly, the field follows on. Behind them, the ever-present medical helicopter shepherds the last boat through into quieter water. In the race against the clock, it's Max Mackenzie well ahead, picking his way through the log jam, while further back, Don Johnson loses valuable minutes as he nurses a sluggish Aorangi, allowing the others to catch up. Blue Derry, Norm Bagri, and a determined Reg Benton, making up for a disastrous first stage, powers his way to the fastest time on the river. Two rivers and 139 kilometres behind them. The end of day 1 and a disappointing autopsy for Bob Bradley.
Grab the gasket there. Okay. Oh, Jesus, look at them.
Both of them.
Both of them.
What
a pounding.
Jesus.
Look at that. It was bouncing around in there quite a ways. Oh, that's the noise we heard. You know, it cracked this one.
Well,
yeah, you can see it right there.
Oh, boy.
God. Well, somebody want to take it? Okay.
Oh, look at this one there.
Yeah.
Well,
Got it.
You've never done this that, have you?
I don't think so. We got to find another cylinder head, or else we have to get that one welded because it's got a big hole in it and we can't use it that way. And we do have pistons and enough other parts to fix the engine if we can get a cylinder head. And so we're going to have to scout around and see if we can find a head.
And how do you rate the competition here on this particular march?
As far as riverboat racing, there's a, you know, what do you say? There is no competition. I mean, you know, these people have no competition anyplace in the world. There's nobody in the world that even holds a candle to them. On these kind of rivers, now, you know, and this is a real men's sport, you get on deep, fast rivers, and anybody that can buy a lot of horsepower can win a race, you know, if he can keep it together. But it takes real skill to do these, and we don't have the rivers or the sport developed to where it's a sport in the United States at all. And so consequently, there's nobody in the United States, you know, basically, except for us and a couple other teams in Las Vegas. And we have to go to Canada or Mexico, and we thought we knew how to do it then until we got here and found out they don't have any rivers like this either, or at least they don't race on them.
To travel 8,000 kilometers to last just 15 minutes in the water. Bob Bradley and his crew begin the search for spare parts and somewhere to carry out repairs. Day 2, Stage 3, the Rangitikei River. In a display of power and skill, Max Mackenzie steadily increases his lead on the field. Hotly pursued by Blue Derry and Super Value, Chromie and Commodore, Heslop in P&N, Bagri in Valvoline, Johnson in Aorangi, and a field that's doing its best to chase hard and stay afloat. Once again, first across the line, it's Max Mackenzie, now 10 minutes and 21 seconds ahead. With 3 wins behind him, Max Mackenzie enjoys the luxury of sitting back to watch the rest of the field follow him home.
I'm reasonably happy. The motor's going well, boat's going well. It's over to the driver, really. He's not going quite so well at times, but we're here.
Blue Derry in second place.
A beautiful run up the river, yeah. Nice river. No in trouble, nothing. Nice trip.
And the eager Chromie moving up into third place overall.
Put a dent in just back there, but it seemed to fix the boat and made it go straighter. It always had a tendency to pull one way. It's taken its natural hook out and made it a lot better. Better than a hammer. Yeah, uneventful.
But it's not all stories of good fortune. The marathon begins to take its toll.
He was going along there and we were pointing away and he was waving out to us, and Ross grabbed the distress flag there and waved it and pointed it at him. He had a nice fire going in the back there, and gee, did he jump.
What happened to you last night?
Oh, well, we virtually had to rebuild the boat. We had to pull the unit out, do quite a bit of welding on it, repairs. They stripped the motor right down, put new gudgeons, rings, just did a lot of work on it.
Is it worth it?
Oh, yeah, you bet. Name of the game is keep going.
Music, news, sport.
Taumarunui, hometown of Max Mackenzie, and start of the 4th and longest stage, the Wanganui.
10:16 and the Citizen Watch World Jetboat Marathon. The big news today, down at the start line, Viv Green.
Well, Dave, down here at Weymouth's Crusher, where the start line is, competitors in the marathon have been leaving at 1-minute intervals. It's been steadily drizzling since morning, definitely not the best conditions for a quick trip down the river, and the river is running very high at the moment. At present, the leader of the marathon, Max Mackenzie from Taumarunui in ANZ Bank, is in front of me right now, warming up for his start. And there goes Max now with 234 kilometres of river in front of him, the longest leg of the marathon.
Low mist makes visibility poor, and days of rain have swollen the river, throwing up floating debris and submerging rocks and snags otherwise visible to the watchful eye of the navigator. In the circumstances, there's a lot of guesswork and good luck. But the experienced drivers keep a keen eye on an ever-changing river. Don Johnson in Aorangi. And Howard Smith, desperate to make up lost time, picks his way cautiously through a stretch known as the Rock Gardens. Rising waters have all but hidden lethal rocks, and in the misty atmosphere, the Wanganui becomes an unknown quantity. Sooner or later, it had to happen. 1 minute you're doing 80 knots, the next you're in the water.
Where are you? Where is it, man? Hold it, hold it, hold it.
2 seconds gone. We're straight out the front.
We've got to stop here, we've got to sit here, we've got to wait. Oh, yeah, sorry, mate.
Come. Hang on a
Yeah, no one hurt you, mate.
No, it's coming from Like you got a whiskey on, Like did the motor hemorrhage and hit the water? We were flown about 10,000 pieces.
No, you bloody hemorrhage. I suppose you hit the water too, yeah?
Oh, yeah, we did, yeah.
Oh,
Just throw it up.
you taught me something, mate?
The rescue helicopter is alerted and sent to winch them out, but in the conditions they may be lucky to find them. And as the race goes on, an ex-boat owner recounts a miraculous escape.
It's back in the middle of the river here. You'd normally boat in it. With the rain in your glasses, it's a bit hard to pick it up. Tell you what I told it. You just go in for him when you hit it.
And the same submerged rock claims its second victim. It's now a much more serious task for the helicopter team, as the second crew have not been so lucky.
Yeah, Les, he is on his way up the mouth.
This guy is also a diabetic. He might require medical assistance pretty quick, mate.
Yeah, roger. Bill, can you get onto a base station with a telephone, please?
Distracted by a guy waving a white rag up the top of the hill.
He's coming right.
And, you know, I saw it 10 feet in front of the boat and that was it. Nothing you can do. However...
What did it feel like?
well, it all happened so quickly, you know, you don't really remember too much. Happens very quickly. You stop quick when you hit too.
The others are on the way.
Yeah.
Howdy.
Hi.
How you doing, mate? Bottom leg. Which one? Oh, my left one. My right leg's been hit, but
The guy that's also diabetic.
every time I move my left leg, it feels like I'm going to pass out. Pardon? Every time I move my left leg, I feel like I'm going to pass out. Okay. You got any medication with you? No. Over here, you lot.
He will meet enough regards at his place. Can you get that message to him?
Fracture, possible fracture, I
Yeah,
think.
doesn't make that slow. Couldn't see him.
As the rescue helicopter arrives at the crash site, they get a graphic view of what a submerged rock can do to the bottom of your boat. First casualty of the longest marathon is quite willing to leave behind the dangers of the river and the jet stream.
good news for local boating fans. Max Mackenzie, driving ANZ Bank, has established a new record time of 2 hours and 43 seconds for this hair-raising section. So Max Mackenzie of Tominaduri leads, and of course Max has now wrapped up the North Island section of this year's World Jetboat Marathon.
494 kilometres and 4 rivers behind them, the entourage cross Cook Strait to the South Island. Nearly 18 minutes ahead of the rest of the field, Max Mackenzie has time to consider his prospects on the 5 South Island rivers that lie ahead.
Changing from our more familiar rivers in the North Island to the South Island rivers is always a little nerve-wracking, and it's a challenge. They're readable, although last marathon we put our boat ashore for about took us 40 minutes to get it off the shingle. It's just a matter of remembering the basics, and this means that it's a matter of reading the river and deciding the best channel to take quickly.
A second round of scrutineering is combined with a boat show, as most crews take the opportunity of a well-earned break. Except those keen to get back into the race. Working furiously since pulling out after the first stage, Bob Bradley and crew have just about completed a frustrating marathon of their own to get Pioneer back into the water. The 5th stage, and the Waiau River. On the rugged east coast of the South Island, the Waiau is a river well known for its treacherous currents. As the entrants assemble for the start of the first of the South Island rivers, Bob Bradley and his Tres Locos Gringos live up to their Mexican nickname. A cursory squeeze for the sake of appearances, and it's welcome back to the American entry. Now out of contention for championship honours, Bradley is still keen to get experience on local rivers as he moves Pioneer up to the start line. It's a river like the Waiau, with its constantly changing channels and swift currents, that brings home the very real dangers of jet boating. Medical officer on the marathon, Dr. Michael Hux.
The role of the doctor basically is a matter of safety of the participants in the race. We've got a helicopter which can land basically anywhere, or certainly get me to within a fairly short distance of where the accident might have occurred, and it's a matter of then taking in the crash pack and me getting to work. As you realise, jet boating can be an extremely dangerous sport. You've got boats going at 70 miles an hour down a very few inches of water in the rivers at places, and injuries can be very severe. In fact, I understand in several marathons there have been very serious injuries or death, and therefore we require a helicopter, and it's mainly to cope with serious accidents and on-the-spot rescue attempts.
And true to form, the Waiau claims its share of victims. Just 5 kilometres from the start, a courageous Bob Bradley and his crew get to know another New Zealand river intimately. Back in the race, Howard Smith, Blue Derry and Mark Cromie set a hot pace to close the gap on Max Mackenzie. than 2 kilometres upstream, a large lunchtime crowd has gathered to watch the finish, but they get a little more than they bargained for. And a $300,000 helicopter makes its own unique contribution to the ever-increasing financial toll of the marathon.
Saw the wire a fraction of a second before the rotor blade hit it. The next minute it was an almighty crash. I saw the wire flailing round the helicopter on my side, and then we were fighting for control. Charlie Anderson did a magnificent job because we were about 30 feet above. The reaction time for him was tremendous in order to get us into the river, which he managed to do, and not only that, but facing the right way in the current.
It's really a victory for the Waiau. Of 76 starters, 20 failed to finish within the allowed time.
It's surprising actually how little it worried us. There wasn't enough time to get too shaken up.
And you'll be back tomorrow?
Yes, I'll be back tomorrow and or the day after as soon as we get a new helicopter.
From the east, across the Southern Alps, to the infamous West Coast. Its proximity to the Alps gives the coast its unique character. It's rugged and wet, and when swollen with the spring thaw, the West Coast rivers have a reputation for character. A previous championship on the Grey River saw most of the field beached in the shallows. With preparations underway for the 6th lap, the time between the leading boats has all but gone. Previously more than 17 minutes ahead, Max Mackenzie now leads the field by just 7 seconds. And as Max prepares to defend his slender lead, the Grey lives up to its reputation.
I was trying to tie the boat up, and the current was fairly swift, and it got away, and before I get the motor started again, it hit a railway line about that far out of the water. Just tipped it up on its side and filled it up, and down she went.
How's that affect the chances on that?
Well, looks pretty grim, doesn't it?
It just adds to the pressure already on the marathon leaders. Max Mackenzie.
Well, we've got our fingers crossed. We had a grill fall out yesterday, half out. Keep our fingers crossed for today's run.
Smith.
We're now only 7 seconds behind Max, and you know, Max is going to be pushing it, I'm sure, and if anybody's going to do it, he will. But we'll be hot on his tail. As long as we're still there tomorrow when we get onto the Canterbury rivers, I'll be quite happy.
Cromie.
Howard Smith a wee bit, but then we lost him when we took the wrong river at the end. We ended up in the Waiau. We should have finished in the Hope. But we hoped like hell when we turned around, and we got back in the Hope and we were finished.
Baggery.
It's not pushing it too hard. I'm just sitting back in 4th place and waiting for my chances.
You know, it's a good position we're in. I mean, I wouldn't like to be a half an hour behind the winner, but we could have a breakdown, or he could have a breakdown, and we just pass him as quick as that. And the field passes us just the same if we stop.
Bob Bradley, hoping to cash in on a little local knowledge, co-ops coaster Barry Ord to his crew. In the races ahead, it will be the ability to read the rivers that will produce the winners. Measuring his race cautiously, is never far behind the leaders. Warming up to a record time, Blue Derry demonstrates his knowledge of local conditions. Hotly pursued by Reg Benton, methodically pinning back that half hour lost on the first day. And Howard Smith, recovering well from more mechanical trouble, incurs a 4-minute penalty when his hapless boat drifts across the start line. forces the pace, closing in on those ahead. In an attempt to catch Max Mackenzie, Cromie, now third overall, sets an eager pace in Commodore. But it's the Grey River that has the final say. Stranded in inches of water, Mackenzie, heading for the wrong part of the river, spun out, lost speed, and dropped the boat onto the bottom. The crew have no choice but to push to deeper water. It'll cost precious minutes as the field draws closer. With 620 kilometers of the race over, the marathon has a new leader. A triumphant dash to the finish line at Greymouth. And Cromie in Commodore is home ahead of the field. Followed in by Reg Benton, still chasing the clock. Howard Smith makes up enough time to move into second place overall. But so far, the day belongs to Cromie and his youthful crew.
What position did you leave the start at?
Well, we were third boat away, 3 minutes after Max Mackenzie.
And you came in
first, yeah.
Quite a long way. Well, the other two got held up, didn't they?
Yeah.
We struck problems up at the start. We couldn't get up on the plane, and the motor was misfiring like anything, and Mark Cromie, who was to start a minute after me, he'd gone before we even started.
We spun out and sat on the bottom, and unfortunately it was quite a long way to some deep water. This cost us half an hour. Really? That's that.
Further back, a rather crowded Bob Bradley's international crew finished their first stage.
Nice to be here. Yeah, too right, too right. Oh, that's good, Bob. Just keep it up now. Yeah, want to see you at the other end. I hope so. Okay.
It's a bit of luck in it, you know, whether when you decide to take a stream, which one you go in is, you made your decision, that's it. We're aluminium, so we can afford to hit a few.
Fairly thick bottom?
Yeah, 3/8 of an inch. So we can go across a few boulders if we have to. That's the main thing, is you keep your speed up, you know, 70 mile an hour and throw her across the boulders if you have to. You hope you land back in big water.
The afternoon of day 5, stage 7, the Taramacau River. As expected, Cromie and Blue Derry set the early pace. The Taramacau, the first of the really braided rivers, crisscrossed with a myriad of river channels. The navigator's nightmare, not simply knowing which channel to take, but also a matter of reading a river that has a curiously man-made look. The river channel is diverted by a moonscape of alluvial rubble. Where in earlier years the coast had seen a mad scramble for gold, all that now remains is a solitary dredge, a silent witness to a race for 20th century spoils. In this sort of river, the navigator comes into his own. One wrong turn and you're out of the race. By the time you retrace your steps back to the main channel, the rest of the field have long gone past. It's quite a skill reading a river, noting the color of the water, the way the current moves, or the shape of the waves, and that particular ripple that may be hiding a snag. Not big, but at 80 knots, it's enough to rip the bottom out of your boat. navigator's nightmare, like trying to sprint through a maze. You could almost be forgiven for losing your way. But the most common danger is hitting the shallows, losing speed and putting the boat on the bottom. The solution's really quite simple. You make the boat lighter by getting out into the freezing cold water and proceed to push nearly 1.5 tons an indeterminate distance to deeper water. A quick sprint restores the circulation and delivers the crew to the nearest handy pickup point. Back in the race, consoled by the thought that the rest of the field have already finished and are enjoying some famed West Coast hospitality.
News and information. This is Rob Webb. There's been an alteration in the final placings in the overall championship class for the World Jetboat Marathon. Leading is Mark Cromie, driving Commodore. Second, Valvoline, driven by Norm Baggery. Third, Howard Smith, driving W2. And fourth, Superlady.
But the pressures and dangers of an event such as this breed a kind of camaraderie, and the near misses and close scrapes are all relegated to the safety of good yarns. With 2 rivers to go, the following day sees the marathon looking more like a travelling boat show, winding its way back across the Southern Alps. Rising to 12,000 feet, the Southern Alps provide a gigantic reservoir for the rivers that meander east across the Canterbury Plains, the Rakaia and the Waimakariri, the home of jet boating. Having successfully completed his second stage, Bob Bradley is keen to improve his showing, lightening the boat by offloading crewman Ralph Poole.
I'm standing around on the bank because we had to import a Kiwi guide so we didn't get lost again, and too many people in the boat, so we drew straws, and I'll race tomorrow.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit more about trying to get it out?
You know, in these rivers you get high and dry, and you can walk for hundreds of yards and the water doesn't get over your tennis shoes, you know, and so you just have to keep pushing it till you get it in deep enough water to run in. And it's a struggle.
And Pioneer is away on the 8th stage, the Rakaia, and they'll find a little local knowledge handy, for this is the really braided stuff. Benton, still methodically working his way back up through the field, sets a cracking pace, leaving little room between bank and boat, spotting channels, taking risks, making a last-ditch stand. Mark Cromie, out in front as overall leader, finishing ahead, and with one river to run, must be in to win on his home patch. A relative newcomer, Cromie entered the marathon with limited resources. There have been many of these long nights of preparation, but none this crucial.
125, all right? 125 on the left-hand tank.
But I think you might as well throw the whole drum and all, I think, the way she was using it yesterday.
There should be enough there.
In an event where a machine that stays together will win the day, there's no such thing as too much preparation. The last day and the 9th river, the Waimakariri. To the curiosity of local fishermen, large crowds pour out from Christchurch to see the final leg.
Well, we're looking forward to getting up there and getting back without having to get in the water and push. That's the main thing.
Well, how's the last couple of days going? Obviously, you're getting into it now.
Well, we've got a good navigator, and that made the difference. You know, we have somebody tell us where the water's at. And, of course, you know, we wouldn't even be here today if we didn't have him to help us. But I don't know. This is a tricky river, I understand.
Tense moment for you?
Yeah, it is, really. I think it's harder out of the front than following some, you know, than perhaps have to go out and catch someone. But I think we'll do it.
2 years ago in the Citizen Watch Marathon here, I was runner-up to Reg Benton. Last year in Mexico in the World Championships, I was runner-up to John Hislop. I'm sick of being the bridesmaid.
144 kilometres of a 1,000 kilometre race to go, and only 7 minutes separate the first 4 boats. It's been a marathon chase for Reg Benton, but on the last leg, he's finally within striking distance. So is Norm Bagri. On his home river, he's just 3 minutes behind the leader. Everywhere, the competition is fierce.
And we motioned to him to go on our left, but he misunderstood evidently and went on our right. And then as soon as he got in front of us, he realized that there was no water there, so he made a 90 right in front of us this way and went over into the left-hand channel. And in his spray, we just couldn't see where we're going at all, and we ran aground.
It's quite simple, really. You get out, you get wet, and you push. Another stroke of wretched luck for Bob Bradley. Bagri is still in the hunt and closing fast on the leader Cromie, who's not keen to take chances. But races are won and lost on taking chances. Bagri pushes Valvoline just a bit too hard, blowing his engine, and with no steering finishes the marathon high and dry, just half an hour from home. Howard Smith, despite 4 minutes penalty time, moves into second place, still chasing the front runner Cromie. And after nearly 1,000 kilometres of chasing, Reg Benton moves within striking distance of Cromie. In a last desperate bid to regain the world title, he finally overtakes Cromie to begin the last crucial race against the clock. 7 days of racing to be separated by a few minutes. Benton is a little too desperate. In taking a shortcut, he loses the gamble, runs aground, and his long chase is now over. his 27th birthday, Mark Cromie in Commodore gives himself cause for double celebration by becoming the new world champion. The Citizen Watch World Championship Jetboat Marathon. 1,000 kilometers, 9 rivers, 7 days of jet stream, 91 starters, 43 finishers. A new world champion, and New Zealand's hold on the title unbroken. The most expensive boating event New Zealand has ever hosted is over, bar the shouting.
God, I didn't think it would really happen.
What, you had any doubts down there?
Oh, well, it's a tough field. There's only minutes between us, and, you know, they're really pushing us, and we've got to push ours, and it's whose machine, I suppose, can stay together. And it seemed to stay together.
Well, looks like I'm bridesmaid again for the third time. I was second in the last marathon here. I was second in Mexico last year, and here we are, second again.
Oh, it's been good. It's been great.
Been good.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
Oh, a little bit, but they had, Mark had a great run. He ran a hell of a good marathon, and Howard ran a good one in the second place. Really good. So it's a credit to both of them.
So then next year?
Who knows?
I thought it was a bloody good marathon. Yeah, enjoyed every minute of it. We had our problems in North Island, but we finished, and that's what we started out to do, so I'm quite happy.
There's no real reason to doubt why New Zealand has the best drivers. They have the best rivers. And if Americans could practice on these kind of rivers, if Mexicans and Canadians could practice on New Zealand rivers, they'd be as good. But you've got the best right here.
We'll be back. New Zealand hasn't seen the last of the American.
What, you see it as a great challenge?
Oh, it's an extreme challenge. We're going to go home and fill up the parking lots with the fire hydrants and practice.